Season 3 of Modern Battlebots was a fantastic season with terrific bots and incredible fights. However, that's not what we'll be looking at today. Today, I want to focus on the most bland, dull, and uneventful fights that Season 3 had to offer. Now, normally I wouldn't be doing a worst list because I don't like spreading unnecessary negativity. For example, I will not be making a worst bots video because no matter what people built, there was always passion and dedication put into their robot, despite how poorly it may have performed. However, when it comes to worst fights, we are dealing with isolated moments that builders have the opportunity to fix in their next battle or next season. And I think it's important to discuss what makes a fight boring so we can make fights in the future even better. Now, obviously my bias is going to be on full display here because, of course, it's my opinion. But along with trusting my gut, I crafted a system that makes clear why a fight ends up on the worst or best list. Using this criteria, I watched each and every fight from Season 3, including the basement fights, and rated them on a scale of 1 to 10. Blue points add to the score, and red points subtract from it. I tried to capture every aspect that affects my thoughts on a fight on this list, but keep in mind that the overarching guideline is whether or not the fight was entertaining. With this in mind, there is one fight that definitely belongs on this list, but won't be getting a spot. Tantrum versus Battle Royale with Cheese. This fight checks every box to be one of the worst fights of the season, and I gave it a 1 out of 10. However, everything about this fight was self-aware enough to make it a thoroughly entertaining experience. The burger puns Chris and Kenny were making, Tantrum's spatula and silverware, the crazy costumes of Team Poor Life Choices, yes, that is actually their team name, it added up to a very funny segment of the episode. The show did the best possible thing by making an otherwise broken bot into a very funny joke. In short, this fight was so bad, it was good. But no amount of joking around can save these next fights from being the absolute low points of the season. Here are my top 10 worst fights from Season 3 of Modern Battlebots. Number 10, Predator versus Rotator. Despite some impressive hits from Rotator, we all knew what was going to happen within 5 seconds of this fight starting. Predator needed to face Rotator if it wanted any chance of winning, but instead, it basically took a nap. The entire fight was nothing but target practice for Rotator because Predator could barely move. If you're looking for some mindless action, you might like this fight. But for me, I prefer seeing two robots fighting each other, rather than a Predator toying with its prey. Ironic, isn't it? Number 9, Whiplash versus Mecha Rampage. This fight was a great fight for Whiplash, and a boring fight for everyone else. It started off fine enough, with Mecha Rampage getting up to a decent speed and delivering a lukewarm hit. But after that, Whiplash simply rammed Mecha Rampage into the wall and propped it up on its side, stranding it in just 27 seconds. Even though this proved to be a great demo for what Whiplash was capable of, I was left wanting more. However, Whiplash does get the award for most creative way to immobilize a bot, rivaled only by Bronco. Number 8, Bombshell versus Lockjaw. This episode 1 fight looked promising as two veterans were clashing, but Lockjaw quickly proved that bots that can't self-right don't make for interesting fights when flipped over. And flipping Bombshell was the first thing Lockjaw did. The second thing Lockjaw did was save Bombshell to keep the fight going, taking all the tension out of the battle. The fight went on for a bit longer with Bombshell still upside down, until Lockjaw stranded Bombshell for a second time, and Lockjaw wasn't about to grant another extra life. This fight may not have been so bad if anyone else was involved, but I think we all expected more from people that we know can build good robots. And speaking of everything I just said, number 7, Bombshell versus Lockjaw. This rematch happened in episode 18 right after each of these robots knocked out two of the most dangerous robots ever conceived, and then Lockjaw takes out Bombshell in a single mediocre blow. This fight was literally the same as the first 15 seconds of the previous fight, except this time Bombshell burst into flames for literally no reason. Just like the last one, this fight would have been passable on its own. However, this fight could have been Son of Waiachi versus Tombstone. Instead, we got this. Number 6, Parallax versus Ultimo Destructo. This fight started off alright, with both Ultimo's flipper and Parallax's spinner being functional, and drive working on both bots. Ultimo got a few gentle flips in, and Parallax sent some sparks flying. Then, about halfway through, both robots just stopped attacking each other. Parallax lost drive on one side, and I don't even know what happened to Ultimo. Apart from a few nicks by the kill saws and Parallax nearly catching on fire, basically nothing happened for the rest of the fight. Things just dragged on and on, which will be a theme for many of the remaining matches. Number 5, Chomp versus Basilisk. If it wasn't for the first few big hits from Chomp that left dents on Basilisk, this fight would be much higher on the list. Very little happens in this fight. Chomp lands big shots, Basilisk lets Chomp land big shots, Chomp flips over, and Chomp's tail jams up its hammer. Then Chomp immediately gets counted out, making this one of the quickest fights, I wish. Instead, the fight drones on for another minute and a half. Neither bot is doing anything. Basilisk is just driving around the arena like a drunk frat boy. Hit each other! And of course, when the referee finally starts counting Chomp out, Basilisk gives Chomp a nudge, making the count last even longer. Oh, this fight is so boring. But again, this fight lands here because of those few big hits in the beginning, something you will not be seeing in any more of these next entries. Number 4, Brutus versus Red Devil. Brutus, what happened? This fight could have been great, but instead Brutus decided to burn up its motors in 15 seconds. Brutus stayed kicking for a little longer, but it was only a matter of time before it started losing functionality. After that, Red Devil went in, as much as it could. Pinning Brutus was a great move, but wow, that saw did literally nothing. Whether it be on the wedge or on its back, that saw could not cut through anything. And by that time, Brutus was a smoldering heap of dead. So, take away the tiny scrapes the saw caused, this fight consisted of two robots kissing each other, then the fight was over. I'd say we needed a little more. Number 3, Warrior Dragon versus Chomp. Nothing annoys me more than robots not working as intended. As per usual, the fight starts out fine enough, with some cool flips from Warrior Dragon and, at first, a functional new self-righting system from Chomp. Then, things refuse to work for the remainder of the fight. Chomp can't get back on its wheels because Warrior Dragon keeps tipping it over, then Warrior Dragon's weapon stops working. The rest of the fight consists of Warrior Dragon sitting underneath Chomp. Not one of Chomp's hammer swings made contact with Warrior Dragon, and Chomp's self-righting was too slow to be useful. There's nothing else to say. When neither weapon works and both bots are sluggish, the fight sucks. Number 2, Parallax and Balesphere versus Basilisk and Double Dutch. Without a doubt, the best part of this fight was the first hit, where Balesphere's tire gets embedded in Double Dutch's weapon. Unfortunately, the rest of the fight was a massive drag. One of Double Dutch's bars fell off, Basilisk's flipper was only capable of gently placing bots upside down, Parallax's weapon was only capable of sparks, and Balesphere was... Balesphere. I suppose the drama of Parallax coming back to life was something, but when Basilisk flipped it, Parallax just couldn't get any hits in. In the end, this fight consisted of 4 robots incapable of making a rumble entertaining. That is quite the impressive feat, though. Number 1, Ultimo Destructo versus Valkyrie. Oh, this fight sucked! The only thing that worked was Ultimo's drive. Ultimo's weapon was slower than Battle Royale's, Valkyrie's weapon didn't work at all, and Valkyrie's drive was only able to pivot around their weapon disc. To sum the fight up, this was the hit of the match. Are you not entertained? At least we learned a valuable lesson. Make sure your robot works before putting it into the battle box. There is literally nothing else to say about this absolute snoozer of a fight. But fortunately for BattleBots, these drab fights were a rarity. In order to qualify for this list, I had to give these fights a score of 3 or lower, and the 11 fights I mentioned in this video were the only ones from Season 3 that qualified. And when Season 3 contains over 100 fights, I'd say we were treated to an incredible season. So, what have we learned from these subpar battles? How can we keep fights entertaining? Well, first of all, if your robot is working, then the fight is working. at keeping the audience entertained. Second, make sure the robots are always doing something and not just sitting around. And last, try to avoid one-shot wonder fights that last 30 seconds. While these quick fights can make for good moments, I think it's better to see robots earn their victory over a longer period of time. If robots can follow these rules, we can make a 4th season of Battlebots even better. Sorry about the poor audio quality. I currently don't have access to a soundproof room right now, and my house is currently being renovated. This was the best I could manage, so if the background noise bothers you, I apologize. But as always, I'm Obsidian Madman, and thank you for watching. I look forward to your return.